Liz, you were the first one that I saw on the screen today, and then I thought, "Oh, it's real, it's real. It's really gonna happen." Oh my goodness. Many of m to some of these faces that I see when we're talking, I've only seen still pictures, and they're usually very small. So this is so great just to greet each of you, and Liz, I'm gonna have you just start and, if there's more to your name, we should know, both your middle names or something like that. But if you would just tell us at least one thing, about yourself, it can be something that's well known, or maybe it's just something off the cuff about you that, you would like for me to know about because I'm just really meeting all of you at this moment. So Liz, go right ahead.
Well, my middle name is Anne, if that's important, but I don't
Mine
ever use
too.
it. So yeah, so that's great. I really enjoy working within the aging space a lot. I'm the director of communications at Get Set Up, and I think one of the things that's most exciting is I've been a lifelong learner my whole life. I've always been interested in learning new and different things, and I think it's very, very exciting to be a part of a community that's enhancing that and showing different ways to do that across all stages of life. I've worked not so much with little kids, but with teenagers before and all the
Mhm.
way up through all ages past kind of 15. And I think that's just wonderful. So I think my fun fact is I love learning lots of new things.
Zach, when you popped in, you were like, "Hi, Christine," and you were, buoying me up and encouraging me, and I'm thinking, "He doesn't know anything about me, but I think this just flows out of him." You also caught us up on, kind of a snapshot, if anyone remembers what snapshots were. A snapshot of your life even this week in the last 48 hours or whatever. So go ahead and just make sure that we know your middle name. No, whatever part of your name you want to tell us. And just go ahead and tell me something that I ought to know.
So I didn't put my last name on it because it probably would have filled up the whole screen. Demopoulos, right? And I was probably one of the few little kids that could spell well because I had almost every letter and alphabet in my vowel in my name. I don't have a middle name, so I love Anne. My mother's name is Anne, and Greeks for some reason don't give middle names. I don't know why that is, but we don't have middle names. So Zach Demopoulos, that's it. Kind of boring. Sorry about that.
Great.
I guess because they figure we have so many letters in our last name. Why do that to a child? You know? I used to do the SAT, and you used to fill in those little squares, and there was never enough squares for me. Hardly ever. Me, I'm actually kind of those weirdos who's pretty positive every day. I kind of embrace things pretty well, and I sold I had a home care business for 13 years, owned and ran it with my wife. And it was one of the most incredible things I ever did after leaving corporate America. And I have not worked since July 1st of last year intentionally. I know there's a lot of people, unfortunately, out of work, but I intentionally have done it. Money's running out, but it's been a tremendous 14 months that I've gotten a chance to do stuff like this. And I met Liz, and I've talked to so many people. And I tell you, it's just been awesome. One little fun fact, I'll tell you, one of my favorite clients, all of them were my favorite. I had over 513 years, but one of my favorite is really up your alley, Christine, who is a 106-year-old Toby. And maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about him during the show here, but he was one of my favorite clients, 106-year-old Toby. And he was known as the oldest bowler in New Jersey, and he could beat anybody in his age bracket, which was 90 to 100.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I was an assistant for a person. It was really peace of mind for the family. I couldn't even tell you now why, what, incident, recent surgery, I don't know. Well, I had smacked my baby toe the day before, and this person, they had me walking back and forth. We put in a few miles, and I'm just, I'm thinking I'm going in as a hired caregiver. I'll be able to put my foot up once in a while and work with this person. Even after all of my experience, I thought to myself, oh, look at all those big numbers. Boy, this is going to be a very, relaxing. Nope. It's like, we're headed over for this. And then I want to make sure we do that. And who cares about driving, because we can get there. And I'm just like limping along. And it's like, I love it when someone just kicks me like that. Dr. Albert, I am so glad that at this moment you are here. You could have been somewhere else keeping busy because of your the DR period that's before the rest of your name. So, you know what? We know how to pronounce your last name because someone else on the screen is related to you. Just tell us anything that you would like for us to know about you.
Well, I love life. I love my job, and I, as Nick, always see the glass as half full, not half empty. And Nick, just like you, I don't have a middle name either. I have a middle initial. I grew up a little bit different than most people. The Amish community that I grew up, they don't usually give middle names. They take the letter of their father's first name. So my dad's name was Samuel. So I have a middle initial, Albert S. So, but I'm an ER physician, and I'm what I like most about my job is the unpredictability. You never know what's going to come through the door, and we have to be ready for whatever does come through that door. So,
oh my goodness!
And my hobbies are traveling. Liz, my daughter, up and on the screen there, lives in Brazil, so that's the most frequent country I visit, obviously. We are going to be going to Kenya in October on a mission trip, which is another part of my life that I do.
Oh.
So.
Take me with you.
Okay.
I know we just met. I like you already. Take me with you.
We are allowed 2 suitcases.
Mine's more a what do you call it, trunk for me. I'm a big guy.
Oh. Albert, you just blew one of my aspects of aging off the page because you enjoy unpredictability. I mean, enjoy it. Like, you're just like, I hope it's not just the same old today. Boy, 3 similar surgeries in a row, or, it's like, that is fantastic, because one of my things is change is perceived as loss, and that does not describe you. So yay for breaking my bias of that feeling that, oh no, my medication has to change again. Oh, please don't tell me that another, like, I do hear this in my situation as a family caregiver, just the grieving and the mourning when a doctor is retiring or, moving to a different situation. And it's just like, I don't want to break in a new one. And, and I have learned through that to say, who knows, but that this next different doctor might have some experiences that you're really going to need. You're going to start to describe some symptoms, and they're going to go, you know what? I'm checking on this right now. And it might, it might be a good thing. And so that has helped to have that different perspective on change. This is, but you love your doctor. You want to keep them. Oh my goodness. Liz, say the name of your service product. What do you call it?
Get Set Up.
Get Set Up.
Yeah, Get Set Up is it's a service to really help empower people to age well, and we offer classes on a virtual learning platform, opportunities for people to share their skills, connect with other like-minded people in a variety of different areas, and so it's really a lifelong learning platform that offers learning in a very encompassing way, from health and wellness to upskilling and reskilling for jobs. I know some caregiving um, I, topics that I talked to Zach about. And so those can be really great, and really around how to adjust with all the technology. I'm thinking we don't have any classes on StreamYard, but that could be interesting in the future for some people. But just to understand, as things move and change, what is it we can do with them? How can we use them to grow as people throughout all stages of our life? So I think it's a very exciting service and platform that we offer. So I really like that.
And you're a lifelong learner. Did you already know that Zach does not have a middle name?
I did not. That did not come up in our
There you
last
go.
conversation, unfortunately. It is making me think that I need to, start including a variety of questions when I talk to people, just to make sure I have some fun facts.
I honestly don't think ahead of time when I come into this situation. I keep thinking, "Oh, I might," and then, I just land in a group, and it's the most curious thing, the most curious details. I mean, the most maybe unexciting details that suddenly blows up into this horizon expanding conversation, because I assumed that Zach had a Greek background, but then your father's background is Amish. Now, is it once Amish, always Amish?
Not in my
That's
dad's
an
case. He can tell you about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Uh, Amish is really, it's a religion. So I never joined the religion. So I never truly was part of the Amish religion. I grew up questioning things. Why do we do stuff this way? Why do we do stuff? Actually, Liz and I wrote a book together, kind of about my memoirs,
Wow.
called "You Can't Do That," because it's probably one of the things I heard the most in my transition, and it's a way of life, and it's a religion. I don't know how much you all know about the Amish, but they are mostly in the states of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, but they're in 20 some states throughout the United States also, but most of them are congregated up in that area.
Mhm.
And I grew up in Ohio. We moved to Alabama in 2009. The kids kind of scattered all over, and so we were traveling to visit the kids and decided we wanted them to be in a warmer climate. The other thing I don't like is cold weather, so we moved south. But I don't know how much, we don't have the time, I think, to get into the Amish culture too much, but we had no electricity in our house.
Right.
Actually, when I was a little child, we didn't even have running water, but running water came later, and later hot water heater even. So farmed with horses,
Yeah.
no cars, no
Is
tractors.
there so I'm thinking about, as people age, and I will briefly say that I spoke with a person in the last 2 weeks who said, in our nation, in our country, there is a pressure on people who are of a certain number of birthdays to move out of those large houses because we have a housing crisis. You should be making room for people who probably will have kids or more kids. You should be moving into something small, moving out. So there's a culture there that I didn't know about. How about any of the 3 of you just telling me about, aging, you kinda have to be in a different culture, and then you realize, "Oh, this is the way we operate, or this is the way it was when I was growing up. Now that I'm seeing it kind of from a different perspective, or I've seen somebody else's way of living. So just, is there something that comes up that may be more the Greek community, that's the Amish community? And Liz, you are younger than the rest of us. In your era, are there people that respond to what you're saying and doing, and you think that's really interesting, people closer to my age or younger? So just go with that, aging as a cultural thing.
Well, in my age bracket, I think that aging is changing a lot and how we're looking at it. And I think you can see that from a number of different stages. For example, when my parents had us, for example, they were really old parents and they were 30. And, we're looking more to have kids as we're closer to 40. So the ideas of aging is really changing, just even from kind of some of those more traditional styles of aging and how people go through different life stages and things like that. And I think that's becoming more and more common. A number of, I know, people my age are kind of into that. And I think some of the differences, especially as we have different generations that are coming in, I think the generation now with the boomers, they're going to be paving the way to make aging a lot more fun, just kind of like they did in the 70s. With making just general rock and roll and all kinds of things more fun. So I think I'm seeing that a lot of people my age, at least, are really thinking about a variety of different things around aging, from maybe moving and retiring into warmer countries or countries with social healthcare services.
Right.
And so some things like that. And I know I've talked to a number of people who are already doing that now as they're in their 60s. And so that's really interesting. And it's exciting for me to see, and talking about it with other people my age as we're planning for how we'd want to go about doing that too.
I agree with you, Liz. I tell you, I love what's happening in this world. The societies of different generations are becoming more and more open to talking with each other, learning from each other. Christine, you picked up on two things that really got me interested, and that's culture. Being Greek, we have a very strong culture, but every generation it's changed some. And we've talked about names. And by the way, Dr. Miller, your name comes from Greek word Milo, which means apple, and you're a fruit.
I watched that movie like 10 times.
Big fat Greek wedding. Sorry about that. I couldn't resist. So, but
Yeah.
but you said two things, Christine. You talked about culture, which I have observed both in my HR profession and as a home care provider, and just living in my own culture and the Greek culture. I've noticed the power of culture. And the second thing you said about, I'm actually a little surprised. I have not heard that, where there's a trend trying to force, someone out of their home, maybe because there's only one or two people living in this large home. Let me tell you, it took me forever to get my mother out of her house. So good luck trying to get Greeks who are living in their home and holding for dear life. But when I eventually moved my mother from her home, it was because of safety and a number of other reasons.
Right.
But the realization of, I should have done this sooner. I should have been in a community where I could interact with others. Now that my husband's been gone for 11 years, culturally, you never thought of it that way until you actually get thrown into it. And what really helped is her grandkids coming by and talking with her and having discussions about, hey, Yaya, grandmother, don't you like it here? Let me come over and let's do happy hour. The first time I saw my mother doing happy hour was the first time she's ever done it in 90 years of age. It was crazy. And so culturally, I think continues to evolve. I think the strength of a culture, you should tap into it, but you should always be open to talking to other cultures and figuring out ways to improve on whatever our situation is.
I'm taking notes in my own family caregiving experience. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll throw in a little bit here too. The Amish have a really great aging process and taking care of their elderly. They pretty much build what they call a dowdy house or a grandpa house, which will be a small house near one of the children. And then when they can't live there alone, they'll move into the big house, and they take care of them pretty much all the way through. So there's no nursing home needed. There's not much else stuff like that needed. I, on the other hand, don't think that we are talking to the Amish. So I have long-term care insurance. I have insurance. I have kind of prepared for my life as best as I can. And insurance is just really what it is. It's something that you pay for and hope you never, ever need.
That's so true.
So hopefully I've
Right.
thrown all that money away and I never need any of that long-term care insurance. But the best tip that I would have for anybody aging is stay active.
Yep.
That means not just your body, but your mind. Keep doing things. It's okay to retire from work, but do not retire from life.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
as long as you're able to be mobile, even if it's uncomfortable. At my age, and we were with some friends who have parents my age, and he was complaining about hurting and aching, and his daughter said to him, he says, "You know, Dad, the age you're in," and we're all in medicine, so the age you're at, you're just gonna have to face it. You're not gonna have a day that doesn't hurt anymore. So, and he is also very, very active. I mean, he still works part-time just because he doesn't have enough other things to do. And he's older than I am. I intend to probably retire from work in the next couple of years. Liz will maybe tell you I've said that for 10 years, but I still like my job. That's the hard part about it is I certainly have cut my hours back a good bit, but I still average about 30 hours a week. That's cut down a good bit from 60. So,
Dr. Miller, you and I got to talk. We're going to talk because I tell you what, we got to talk. I've been semi-retired, and I feel like I have a whole new life. It's been incredible. I will actually go back to work, but a whole different way and a different approach. But
Right.
you and I got to talk. Even 30
Can I jump in really quickly?
I travel a lot more with my spare. And the nice thing about my job is I don't really work 3 days a week. I sometimes work 5-6 days a week, and then I'll have a week or two off in a row.
Wow. Hi, Mark.
How are you doing? I was enjoying the conversation. Fascinating
I'm glad you
conversation.
came in.
Yeah, I was able to make it. I'm actually at work. Speaking of work, I'm at the Hayti Heritage Center, a cultural arts center, speaking of culture. And they're actually having a women's conference here of women of color done by a group called Repurpose, if I remember the name of the organization and all of that. But definitely here we have a lot of people that are always very active. Unfortunately, Baba Chuck Davis passed away not that long ago, but he was involved in African dance. We actually have a mural in his honor, and he definitely believed in dancing all the way up until the end of his life, and definitely even at the celebration of his life, there was a lot of dance involved, and he's been gone now for a couple of years. But definitely he was somebody that was dancing well into late life and all of that. And my dad is actually very active. He is an artist, and he is 82 years old and still goes swimming. I remember one time he was trying to talk himself into going swimming, and he actually talked himself into it and walked to the swimming pool. And this is not a short walk. I think it's probably about 3 or 4 miles. And then he still went and did the swimming as well. So that's just something that I've observed. And I hit the big 6-0 on July 1. And so the big 6-0 was my birthday. And I still am very active in the cultural community, in the whole world of media, entertainment, and event planning, and all of that. So definitely, I think that we need to stay, as that other gentleman said, active all the time, and definitely stay in that active period. If I can just add one other thing, I did notice that my mom is living alone. She's actually living alone in a town called Rocky Mount and all of that. But, the push for connection to family, and she does have family there, but like her grandkids, because I don't have any kids, but she does have my two nephews, her grandkids, and all of that. And I do know that as she gets older, she would like to sell the house that she has, which is a nice, wonderful house with a swimming pool and all of that, and probably at some point move closer to them because they've hit those big teenage years. So actually, Julius just hit 14 this month that we're getting out of, and his younger brother hit 13. So I have not one, but two teenage nephews. So I'm already a little bit scared and all of that, because I know that once they get those teenage years, you got to worry as to what will be in their mind and all along those lines. But I just say that teasingly because I love both of my nephews, just like I love the rest of the family as well. But yeah, sometimes proximity does cause you to want to get closer to your family and all of that. So I know that Mom is probably thinking about that. And at some point she may move closer. As a matter of fact, one of her sisters lost her husband. So that might even push her closer as well, because she's got 3 sisters, of which 2 are living. So definitely the 3 of them may want to get closer. But ironically, one lives not that far from where she's at now. The other one lives here in Durham, the Bull City, where I am, and all of that. You know, we're also fortunate to have a lot of medical facilities here in Durham. So as you age, there are places that you can actually go get great medical care here in the city of Medicine and all along those lines. So that's
Hey,
just the thoughts that I had.
I just want to, first of all, happy birthday. I'm 62. Happy birthday to you, my friend.
Yeah.
I want to be you. I want to look like you when I become 61. Loneliness. I just want to say, Liz and I talked about this, you know, in her Get Set Up. Loneliness, and Dr. Miller did a nice job of saying being prepared, insurance, but loneliness, you just touched on a huge item. To your original point, Christine, if we're going to be moving people out of homes, you know, that there's pros and cons to it, but loneliness is huge. It's huge. And so we also need to plan for that. We need to plan for companionship and making sure that I said I want to hopefully tell you a Toby story, who was 106 years old. I asked him one day, and I met him at 105. I asked him one day, do you have any regrets in life? And you know what he said to me? He said, I wish I'd have met you earlier. And so, because we did a lot together and we hung out, you know, because he was my client, but we hung out a lot. But I can't say enough, Mark, what, you know, your mom might be going through. And, you know, and Dr. Miller, I know working also helps you not be lonely, but I can't say enough, Christine, about loneliness, making sure that we're very aware of that. And Liz's product does a great job of making sure that we reduce the chances of loneliness too. So.
Oh yeah, good point there and everything. The other thing that I would add to that is, you know, when sometimes if you're in the arts or you're in media, you sometimes have to do, as I'm sure Christine can relate to, a multitude of jobs. And one of those jobs that I do is working for a testing company. And I can tell you that some of those people that work for that testing company are well into their 80s and their 90s, because it's a company, Measurement Inc., that requires you to have a college education. That's the primary requirement, but they grade the end of the year test. And sometimes people don't want to sit at home. I think one of the gentlemen alluded to that. You don't want to sit at home. So sometimes you will find work opportunities, whether that's like some of the counseling kind of jobs like SCORE or things like Measurement, where you will go in and work because you want to have that. And it comes back to that whole conversation around loneliness. You want to be with your peers and just be around people in general, because sometimes you find that your peers aren't always your same age peers. Because I found some folks that were in their 80s and 90s that were becoming friends with people in their 50s and 40s and even their 30s. So there would be some interesting cross-generational conversations as well. Because a lot of times when you're meeting people of different generations, just like different cultures, you have those chances to meet them, get to know what they're all about, and learn from each other.
Yeah, and you know what, Christina, you know, to that point as well, Mark, I would rather promote, instead of moving somebody out of their home, I would promote cohabitation. Yeah, you know, someone, you know, this generation living with another generation, maybe college kids. I mean, that's powerful, and learning can go both ways. I would. I got to look.
And that cohabitation can become interesting as well, because my dad, who I just mentioned, he's been involved in a long-term relationship. My mom and him have been divorced for a number of years. It was when I was in college, but his long-term girlfriend, who is of Jewish descent and everything, I think they've been together about 20, 25 years, but they actually live in separate houses, and that cohabitation has probably kept their relationship going and all of that. So they've had this long-term relationship that they developed when he was in his middle age, and now it's still going on. And I think that she's probably maybe late 70s or around the 80s herself. and all of that. But sometimes that separate space is something that we all like as well. So that can also be a conversation that folks have even in the older ages.
Mark, can I put you in the hot seat? I mean, are
Yeah.
you kind of shy and reserved?
I'm not shy and reserved. Can't y'all tell I'm not shy and reserved?
Perfect. Okay. So I don't know exactly when you came on the screen because I'm always looking into
Right.
this thing. So guess whose middle name is Anne?
Whose middle name is Anne? It's
On
probably
the screen.
something. It's probably somebody that I'm not going to think. So I'm guessing one of the guys. I'm going to go with Albert.
Yeah, meh. So if you had guessed, it might be either Liz or Christine. You would have been right both times. Both our middle
Okay.
names are Anne. Okay, who in this room has no middle name?
0, no middle name. Let's see, Albert Miller, Liz Miller. Let's see, it's let's see. I'm trying to think. Maybe Albert did not give his daughter a middle name, so I'm going to go with Liz.
Nope. Her middle name's Anne. Okay.
Oh, he
Next-
just said that.
Next question. Next question. Who has only an alphabet letter as a middle name?
Only
And
an
that's
alphabet.
intentional. Intentional.
Intentional. Let's see. Well, we know that yours is Anne and Liz is Anne. We've established that now because I missed that second question. So that leaves it to Zach and Albert. So I'm going with Albert.
Ding, ding, ding,
You
ding,
got
ding.
it.
Good
Mark's
job.
doing such a great job on the hot seat. I just had to help out on that one. I'm sorry. Us fellow 60-year-olds got to look after each other.
Mark, do you have a middle name? And how many do you have?
I only have one middle name. It is actually a family middle name. It's actually the middle name that I share with my dad that I was just talking about. But yes, my middle name is Sumner. So it is Mark Sumner Lee. And so that is my middle name. Ironically, my brother has a middle name as well, but it is actually the name that he goes by. So his actual name is Yusef Malik Lee, but he goes by Malik, and Yusef is actually the first name.
Wow. Yep. That happens. That happens across the boards. I don't want to say goodbye. We've gone through the names. We've heard who's Greek, who's a doctor, who's Amish, who is said my parents are older than other parents. And I will kind of end this way. I used to apologize for being an old mom. It kept welling up out of me. I felt so bad that my kids had a mom who was probably a good 10 years older than the median age of all the other kids' moms. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm like breaking my own rules here, feeling bad that, don't tell people how old I am. I'll try to look young and, whatever. And it was like, wow, what am I doing?
But Christine, there's nothing wrong with being an old mom. I actually have, like I said, no kids at all. But my brother, who is the father of my two nephews, he actually had those children when I believe he was 39 or 38, because he's actually about to turn 53 this October. So there's a 7-year gap between us and everything. And just to let y'all know, because some people are probably looking like, what is this man's ethnicity? Because you mentioned ethnicity. I am primarily identified as African American, light-skinned African American, but I do have Native American roots and some cousins that primarily do a lot in the powwow circuit and the Native American circuit here in North America, in both Canada and the US. And of course, I also have some European background as well. So basically, I guess I'm just a mutt. But primarily, when you look on the birth certificate, it's identified as African American.
And what I have to realize is if I was the oldest mom anywhere, like in the county or something like that, it's who I am. And I got to be a mom, which I had always hoped to be. And I'm a mom by adoption. And our family is, you name it, mix and match. And so it's like, but why did I, of all the things, I was because we are different backgrounds, ethnicities, hairstyles, everything as a family. the one thing that I apologized for was being old or older than the
You were just
average.
ahead
And
of your time. That's like normal now. You are just a trendsetter and you didn't know it.
oh, that was it. All right.
You just had more experience.
Yay, me.
That's actually true. You see what Dr. Miller said? I had a friend who said, I'm going to be like a grandfather at my kid's high school graduation. I'm like, well, get this. You'll probably have the best kids because the rest of us who are young, we've screwed up big time. So you're the wisest of all of us. So your kid will probably be the best on stage.
Hey, I sometimes think about that myself because, like I said, at 60, unless I get lucky or to adopt somebody, I probably won't have any kids in my life. But I do sometimes think about that notion. I sometimes think, maybe in adopting a kid, or if I ever find that special person, even having a child, of course, they probably have to be young because then you have the whole conversation around having children later for women also. But yeah, I've contemplated it, but there's nothing in the picture. And then this lovely thing called COVID got in the way. So who knows if there ever be anything in the picture. But there've been some crazy things like what happens in the Bible. So there might be, children at like 65 or 70, but then I'd have to be like 80 when I'm at the graduation. And that would really be scary.
You can.
Or
I think there's a lot
You
of
would
chance
be
to
a
mentor.
trend center. What'd you say, Liz?
I was saying, I also think there's a lot of chance to mentor. I mean, I worked a lot with at-risk youth and things when I was in the States and with various nonprofits, and there's lots of kids out there that maybe aren't in a situation necessarily to be adopted, but they don't have good role models.
Mhm.
And you can really follow through with that. I mean, I know I've had some people throughout my life who have been those role models and those people for me as well. And so I think there's a lot of ways to have kids in your life that aren't necessarily related to you by a piece of paper per se.
Yeah.
I bet you're a kick bum uncle. Bum. I mean,
Yeah.
butt, all right. So I bet you're a kick butt uncle there, Mark.
Okay. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And Liz, you're absolutely right. My brother actually works with at-risk youth and has been doing that for a number of years. So definitely that is a space, and I'm in the art space. So I have a lot of kids that I mentor that are younger than me that are in the performance space as well. So definitely there are all kinds of ways that it can be done.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Mhm.
See which kids end up on Broadway or have their next album out or painting in the gallery.
Exactly.
Wow. You
Well,
guys,
I've got to bounce, but I'm glad I was able to pop in and everything.
I gotta just say goodbye to everyone. I mean, you might have lives. So thank you. Thanks for talking about old and what we think about it and what we say about it and the culture of it and everything else. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
great
much for the
day.
invitation.
My pleasure. It
Happy
was
Friends
nice.
Day Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.